About a go.
Yeah.
We are back. We love Mondays.
We do. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Back in. So you've been quite busy. What happened during the week for you? You've been social, your little social butterfly. Didn't you go out to the opera and not the opera
that
or
was
something?
great. I loved it. I mean, do I listen to opera at home much? Not really, but as you know, only you know when you come to my house, I've got musical instruments all over the house and the piano. But and so I really do absorb all forms of music. But it was the opening of Carmen, and Nick was meant to come, but she was busy at her son's birthday party, so I took a girlfriend along. And look, honestly, I love a bit of the red carpet. It's a bit of fun. But really, when it opened, I just thought, oh my God, that's coming out of your throat. Like, it's breathtaking.
Yeah, kind
opera.
of in awe of what they can do. But
really.
Carmen's just so beautiful, and at the Sydney Opera House as
Oh,
well.
it's divine. And there's drinks and everything, and you're looking at because I'm a beach bum these days, and I'm looking up at the Opera House in Luna Park going, wow,
it's
I
fun.
love coming into the city.
And getting dressed up. And wasn't there a lot of people, some of our potty guests too, Mitch and Mark were hosting it as well.
Heaps of our potty guests were there. You know, Melissa Hoyer and who else? I'm trying to get Kerry
Jules Robinson was on too.
Yeah. And Mitch and Mark.
Yes, yeah.
I could just keep going. I was going, this is like an over-the-back fence get-together. But yeah, it was great. And what about how was you?
Well, I couldn't go to Carmen, but we'll see if I can definitely go and see it, but not the opening night. But I was celebrating my son's birthday. So it's his last year being in his 20s, and he's just such a divine young man. And we went to a great...
29?
29, yep. We went to a great Italiano restaurant. Absolutely fantastic. And, we're telling old stories about parties, and it was just great celebrating, with our little family and his girlfriend and another old friend there. It was great. And, gave him a lot of different prezzies. One, of course, is a Lisa McGuigan wine, because now we have not only have we got, with our weekly over the back fence potties and our monthly, over the money fence potties, we're also now got over the wine fence. So we've got selling her beautiful wines. So Harrison got one of the wines, and plus every year I always give them a book, because one of the prezzies too.
Best prezzies.
Exactly.
Best
so
prezzies.
Talking about books,
I actually think the more I think about it, people should go into more bookstores and buy a book for a prezzie. Seriously, I'm so over giving candles to people. I am. I'm true. And you know what? It can be so personable, a book, I think it's a great gift. And particularly to a son, I think that's really, really special, truly. Yeah. And speaking of books...
Well, who have we got here? I'll get you to lead the way.
What a welcome. Actually, Jacqueline Maley, welcome to Over the Back Fence.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
It's fun.
Do you ever get Jacqui?
All the time.
Great. So you're cool with that?
Yeah, in fact, I only really became Jacqueline. Obviously, I was christened Jacqueline, but when I became a journalist, I had to decide what my byline would be. And my mum was like, you have to be Jacqueline. Aww. That's the name I gave you. So people, but really, the rest of my life I was called Jacqui. So
it's very classic Australian to abbreviate beautiful names. Anyway, my son is Benjamin James, and he's BJ.
Right.
So you know what I mean. It's just the way it is. So
my mum's name was Jacqueline. It's a very special name, and I love it. And we used to call her JJ.
That's nice.
Yes, And your mum's Judy.
Yes, she is.
Yes,
yeah, she is.
Yeah. So Jacqui is an esteemed award-winning journalist and novelist. She serves as a senior writer and columnist for the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. She is celebrated for her incisive commentary on politics, culture and social affairs. Her latest book is called The Lonely Mouth, which to me is such an eye-catching title in so many different ways. So we're all looking forward to unpacking that, but also I must admit I did mention to Nicola, I read that Nigella Lawson, who we both adore, said while she was in Aussie, your book, The Lonely Mouth, was her favourite book. So that were great accolades, Jacqui, truly, and that's probably a good way to start, really.
My deep and abiding friendship with Nigella Lawson.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome to the back fence.
Really.
No, that was really surprising and lovely, and it was actually, you do all these events as an author, and, the publicists kind of ask you to do all these things, and I'm always happy to do things. Some are bigger than others, and I did a little event at Gertrude and Alice, which is this great bookstore in Bondi in Sydney, and they're such book people, like they just love books, and they've really championed this book. So anyway, turns out when Nigella was last in Sydney, the people at Gertrude and Alice pressed Lonely Mouth into her hand and said, unbeknownst to me, said, you might want to read this. And they gave her 3 books. And anyway, next thing I know, she's posted about it on her Instagram. And in the most incredible, insightful, I mean, there's something when someone gets what you've tried to do, you guys must feel that. It's wonderful. And she was very eloquent. And she used to be I think the deputy literary editor at the Sunday Times. So
she didn't know that.
She knows her stuff. And also the book has a lot of food in it. Like it's set in a restaurant. So yeah, that was wonderful. Really nice.
I remember saying, didn't I, Nicola? I went, how incredible, because I'd mentioned the book to Nicola, and because you spoke at our local bookstore, Bookchino.
Oh, yeah, I love Bookchino.
Which is
we love that one.
Yeah.
Yes,
and I said, wow, Nigella's just given it a huge plug, Lonely Mouth.
Yeah.
Which really, because I follow her, and I was so impressed with that. So congratulations.
And Annabelle Crabb, you've got a lot of, like accolades from a lot of people as well. And was it Julia Baird? Were you doing a Q&A with her as
Julia
well?
launched it, which was really great. And the other person whose opinion I truly admire and respect is Anna Funder, who's on the front, and she's I don't know if you've read her book Wifedom about George Orwell's wife, but that's such a masterpiece. So yeah, look, it's been really lovely. It's been such a nice experience. I work as a journalist, and particularly when you're writing like columns that are controversial or whatever, and if you're writing about politics, and people will be like, like they'll send you nasty emails or they'll say horrible things to you on social media sometimes. But with a book, like, I guess if people don't like it, they just don't say anything.
Yeah.
But
that's
an interesting point.
So interesting.
I wanted to know how you deal with negative feedback, seeing you bring it up.
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't really happen. I've written 2 books. It hasn't happened
like
with the
being
books.
a journalist,
but in journalism, it happens all the time.
How does that affect you?
It doesn't really anymore. It used to, and I think Twitter, when I was sort of writing about politics, sort of first started writing about politics, Twitter was really having its heyday. So we were very much encouraged to be on Twitter and to be tweeting a lot as journalists, which I hated and I never wanted to do. I just never felt like I was particularly good at it. I just didn't like it. And people were really living like online and having these huge beefs, over Twitter. So you would get, huge blowback if you wrote something that people didn't like. And it can be very overwhelming. And over time, and people will say horrible things, they can be quite abusive. I don't think I get nearly... I've never gotten it particularly badly. I'm a woman, but I'm not a woman of colour. I think if you're a woman of colour, like, forget about it. Like, that's the worst vitriol you're ever going to get on social media. But I think at the end of the day, you just sort of think, well, how can I respect the opinion of someone who is sending abuse to a stranger on the internet?
Exactly, isn't it?
And the only people that I...
Sending abuse to a stranger.
And it says so much about them, really, doesn't it? That I think,
Yeah, exactly. But I do... So I don't really engage with Twitter anymore, but I do still get emails from readers, and I always appreciate that a lot. But there is a particular type of... I'm going to say man who emails me, after a column and will be like, look, you wrote some quite interesting points. You make some quite intelligent arguments. However,
work our way down.
And then he tells me everything that I've done wrong.
Wow.
And sometimes, but look, if they're polite and respectful and they've engaged with my work, I'll always write back. If they're not polite, that I won't. But one time, there was this one guy who was like, "Oh my God, you're so pompous," and I just wrote back and I said, "Thanks for your email. Like, you might be interested in the following link," and I just sent a link to the Wikipedia for mansplaining.
Oh, that's gold.
And then was like, best wishes. That's like the most
Did
vindictive.
he respond to that?
No,
of course not.
That's a great way of shutting him up. That's brilliant.
The meanest thing I've ever done. But otherwise, I'm always happy to hear
but
from
you've got to
readers.
put them in their place a little bit too sometimes.
Like,
So you're going, enough is enough, like that. Really.
You must feel this as well, ladies. Like, you get to a certain point in your career and you're like, mate, who's the one who's got the column?
Yes.
Like, who's the one who's got the podcast?
Exactly.
Like,
That's it.
Don't tell me how to do my job.
Yeah,
well, so tell us a little bit about you. Like, what sort of got you into journalism? Tell us a little bit about the background of who you are.
Yeah, okay. Well, I grew up in Sydney. And I guess, you guys were talking about your families earlier. I definitely grew up in a very bookish kind of house and family.
Yes, yeah.
And
Love that, bookish.
Bookish, yes.
yeah, everyone was sort of big readers, particularly my grandmother, who was always pressing books into my hands. And she worked at a university, so I spent a lot of time there as a kid. Kids these days go on like holidays to exotic locations. I spent my holidays with grandma at university.
With feeding your brain.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's something about physically being in an environment. Like we used to literally just go to the library. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
At
I used to meet
university.
boys at the library.
Oh, me too.
Just to
Me
get
too. Yeah.
behind the library.
Mum, going to the library, darling, that's so impressive. No, come back with a love bite.
Well, it's the perfect
Oh, these
cover,
Catholic
right?
girls, I tell you what, you've got to watch them,
But it's
It's the perfect cover when you're a teenager because you can study at the library, but there's also boys there, which is helpful if you go to a girls' school, right? Like I
Yeah,
so you need to see them somewhere. So I went to school. I went to school in North Sydney, and then I went to university, and I actually studied law at university, which was a very, different world to the one I'd grown up in, I suppose. And that was interesting, and I had a great time at university. And I think for reasons which are now a little bit obscure to me, I was like, okay, I'm going to get a job at a law firm. So I went for all these different, they're called summer clerkships. So at the end of fourth year university, you apply to all the different law firms and try to get the most prestigious job you can. So I got a bunch of offers, but I ended up taking an offer at a very conservative law firm, Allen's, which is still, it's changed its name a bit, but it's based, you would know Allen's,
yes,
and did a summer clerkship there and just really found myself a fish out of water. I was like, I don't think I can be a litigation lawyer.
How amazing, all those years of studying.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people that studied law that went on to do absolute 360-degree turn away from becoming a lawyer as such. But it's interesting, you start and get a taste for it.
I was going to say,
and then you go, no, it's
and
not
I think
for
that's
me.
the goal, Di, too, what you said, because you actually got to taste. Some people do the degree, and I think you're always going to learn anyhow, so there's always a win by doing a degree. But by actually going in and going, you know what? It's not really my jam.
I just think I would have been
good to know
such
that.
a bad corporate
Yes.
lawyer, such a bad corporate lawyer. Like the volume of documents and document management and just the volume of information. In my job now, I take in a lot of information. That's part of being a journalist. You have to, same as I'm sure what you guys do. You do a lot of research and then you have to condense it and communicate it. But look, it wasn't my jam. So I went travelling and I backpacked a lot when I was younger because I just always wanted to travel. So I backpacked and worked in Ireland, which was really fun. And then when I just applied for a cadetship at the Sydney Morning Herald when I was overseas, and I got it, and then when I came back, and you can imagine the difference in salary between a graduate lawyer at Allen's and a cadet journalist. Like you're you're the working poor when you're a cadet journalist.
Yes.
But I just didn't look back. And as soon as I became a journalist, I was like, these are my people. It's
how wonderful, isn't it?
And I still love the newsroom so much. It's you're surrounded by interesting people who are intelligent and who are curious and open about the world. They want, and you get, and you guys would feel this too. You get so it's such a privilege to be able to ask people nosy questions for a living.
Yes.
And I just don't think I would ever do anything else.
We like
now.
that, don't we, Di?
We're very nosy. We're nosy because I think the key word, and it's very much the buzzword in the 21st century, is curiosity.
Yes.
Because Nicola and I, it's purely in our DNA.
Yes.
We genuinely love people.
We do.
Yes.
We don't have to try. It's authentic. And I guess at the end of the day, curiosity is part of that, isn't it? When you meet someone for the first time, hi, how are you? Like I only just met you, Jacqui, outside. And I just learnt, because I want to know everything about you.
I know.
And it's normal and natural. And
like
Nico's identical.
Yes. I feel that about you. And, the warmth that comes with being open to the world and open to other people and curiosity. And I think women as well do that.
I think so. What I was going to say? Don't judge a book by its cover. And I tell you what, I've learned that. Excuse the pun. But another one.
That's a beauty.
But it really is one of those things too. The longer I live as well, is that people who you meet, people might have judgments sort of straight away of what they're like. Absolutely no.
Yeah.
And, so everybody, so I was saying everyone who's sat in front of us in the podcast, as I said, they've become our friends because everyone does have a story and we love to find that out.
I've actually never chat about this on the podcast. It's a wonderful thing to bring to the fore about you being a journalist and a writer and an author, of course, and us doing the potty.
Yeah. We've all got that
you
love
said it, you're drawing this beautiful story out of people, and then you're portraying or speaking or writing that so others to share that. That really, to me, is a gift.
Yeah, I mean, it's what makes life worth living, right? And that's what it's the reason why you want to read books or listen to podcasts or listen to books.
Yes, that's true. I was just saying, I'm a big audio one, and I do it on my walks, and I actually do it. I'm a little Freddie, my dog, but I am a little bit of a.
What kind of dog you got?
He's an Australian cobber dog, and he's like a pony.
Sorry.
What have you got?
Well, I've just got a toy cavoodle, and
I'm for a drink.
I'll be back.
It
becomes such a dog bore, so I'm not going to inflict that on anyone.
No, we love animals.
Offline.
But I actually put it on 1.2, so it's a little bit faster because I can sort of speed it up a bit. I guess it's with my personality. I walk faster and I listen to it faster, but anything more than that is too much. But I kind of get through the book quickly, and I really enjoy it that way because your brain adapts to it very quickly.
Yeah, right.
So I do that a lot. But I'd mentioned your book here, and you've written a couple, but this one here, The Lonely Mouth.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Di had put me onto it, and I did it by audio, and I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you so
I really
much.
did, and it's, as I said, I'm a bit more normally of a memoir type. I like, different sort of styles of books. But this one, it kind of got to me, and especially I really loved how it sort of like rounded at the end as well.
It's
so
beautiful.
Really.
And before we
you.
go, I just want to, if you don't mind if I bring this up, is that if anyone's listening right now with children, grandchildren like me or kids, go and buy, I can't help but say it, go and buy a book. Go and buy a book. I'm so over children with phones.
Oh, yeah.
If they got into a book and you help them read it, depending on the age, right? Just buy them a book and sit with them and say, even if you've got a character angle, read that and I'll do this for you. And then let them discover the beauty in it.
Well, it's
Well,
true.
it's a gift that you give them, because if you're a reader and you discover a love of books early, I think you'll always have a friend, you'll always have comfort, and you'll always have a window to other worlds. So
isn't that
I really
sweet?
believe that.
I've never heard anyone say
Yes.
that.
Well, and
That's
you can
beautiful.
travel in a book. I'm a single parent, right? And I was, when you've got a small child and you're on your own, you don't have a lot of freedom of movement, right?
No.
But when you read a book, you can go anywhere you like.
I love it. And only I can digress
I think
like
that's
that.
true. If you go and say,
Sorry.
you might go say to a coffee shop or whatever, a wine bar or something, and you've got your book and a glass of wine or something,
Yes.
and you're sort of like you're all set. You've
Oh,
got your own little party.
You don't need anybody
anyone
else.
else.
No, but
do
it is
you?
true. I agree.
Yeah.
So again, what Nicola just said, that the lonely mouth. I mean,
Yes.
I hope you are salivating, some of you listeners out there, because, as I said, it conjures up so much. But firstly, tell the listeners what that means it's Japanese.
It's a translation of a Japanese phrase, or Japanese word, I should say, which I will not attempt to say because
No.
We'll leave it
my
to you.
Japanese, I know. I should have practiced.
I know.
It's because my Japanese is non-existent. But I read
Could
about
be
it a few
Evelyn.
years ago. It means it's a word. They have a word for it in Japanese, which is the feeling that you have when you, at the most literal level, when you're sort of hungry, you want something in your mouth, you want to chew on something. But you're not exactly sure what it is. And more generally, when I read about this concept, I just thought about the nature of longing and the nature of being hungry for something that's a non-literal hunger, is really, and not knowing what it is that we want and trying out a few different things in search of what it is that we want. I just thought that was sort of like such a kind of, that's really at the nature of being human.
Wow.
So I just thought it was a really interesting concept. And I also...
Sorry, do you count the concept first, then the story?
It's really hard.
How did that work?
It's really hard to work out for yourself how a book comes together. But I was looking to write my second novel. So you're kind of like open to the universe, like you've got all your tentacles out. And I read about this concept. I knew that I wanted to write something that was set in a restaurant because I really like going to restaurants at a basic level. I really love going to restaurants. Like,
Italian restaurants especially too.
Yeah.
Hey, did you notice she's repeated it twice? I like going to I really like going to restaurants. We got that.
And
one.
I'm not talking
I'm with
about
you.
like I don't like fine dining. I don't want like a
I get
what you
it.
call it, like a tasting menu or anything like that. I just love the conviviality of really good food, friends, conversation, bit of wine. It's like it's one of life's best experiences, right? So I thought the theatre of a restaurant would be such an interesting setting for a book because there's so much going on, and the kitchens are places, I think, a little bit like newsrooms that have a lot of idiosyncratic, independent and slightly wild personalities.
Drama.
There's a lot of drama. Like they're all pushed together. They've got to cooperate with each other, but otherwise the whole show falls apart. But they also are going to have a lot of conflict with each other. So I thought that would be a really interesting setting for a book. And then I wanted also to write about sisters, and I just had this sort of vision of Matilda, or of a young girl who's being driven to a home in foster care on the deep North Shore. That was sort of the first image that came to me. So that was the first scene that I wrote, and then it all just kind of evolved and put together. But I mean, for people who haven't read the book, it's basically the story of Matilda, who works in a trendy restaurant in inner Sydney, and has a very close relationship with her sister Lara. And then someone sort of from their past comes back into their lives and kind of upsets everything.
It's really interesting because there's so many different areas that you can sort of discuss and bring up with it too. It's sort of like, you're sort of saying with I love it was set in the restaurant too, an Italian restaurant. I love particularly Italian food. And it was interesting too when you're sort of saying with the sisters, and it's sort of a thing that you can relate to. Many people can in different ways, even though they had different fathers. It was a 10-year age gap. One was particularly stunning and beautiful, and the other. And the older one wasn't so much, and she kind of mothered her. Yeah. But just the thing we're going, how often also in life is that the case?
Yeah, we often see that,
we sort of see that, and how difficult it can be, or sometimes we know how cruel it can be, or and it doesn't mean it's just an exterior thing.
Yeah.
But there was so many different things.
I think sibling relationships are so interesting, and often in fiction.
Try it with 8.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. That's it.
One of my favourite colleagues is one of 10, and I will listen to her for hours talk about the permutations of her family dramas.
Because she'd never shut up like me.
That's why she didn't need books. She didn't need TV. The whole thing
just come and talk to Dada.
Yeah.
It's like I think it's wonderful. Yes. Absolutely wonderful. But I think it's in fiction we read a lot about parents, mother-child relationships, and this book has got a really sort of monstrous mother who I absolutely also love. But I just think the sibling relationships have a huge impact on us, right? And they're a little bit undercooked in terms of how we think about them or how they're written about. So I was really, really interested in exploring the idea of people who've just this idea, and you would know this, you can live in the same family, you can grow up with the same parents, kind of like a control environment, but you have very different experiences within the family. So I just wanted to dramatise that. So I put the two sisters 10 years apart. They've got different fathers, but they had the same mother. And they're on sort of parallel tracks, but they're very, very different, almost polar opposite personalities.
And I loved in the beginning of the book how the mother was just having a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
I think there's many a mother have thought about it on the highway.
Yeah.
And the Golden Fleece, for those overseas listeners, it's south of Sydney. She pulls up to a petrol station, can't deal with it, and leaves them in the bloody toilet at the petrol station. So when we talk about this lonely mouth, there's so many sides to it. Yeah. But that's how you virtually open it for the reader. Yeah, they go. And it's like I was. Yeah. What?
Yeah. Well, that bit came later. That's sort of the prologue. But basically, it's Barbara, the mother.
Barbara.
She's got the two girls in the back, and she's going on a road trip, or they're going on a road trip to Canberra, which. I think, and they stop at the big Merino in Goulburn, which a lot of listeners will know, or know by reputation. It's a very glamorous spot. Yes, she just is going mental and walks out on her children. So I just thought, and this idea that like she's been
And it's
watched
sad,
by her
isn't it?
children.
Because there's,
Yeah,
that
it's very
we know
sad.
people, it happens in life. You know, sometimes they can't cope, with the illnesses that they've got.
Absolutely,
And,
100%.
so it was kind of, you've got to
And I think probably
discuss it.
every mother has had that experience of, I just need 5 minutes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I just need to, and when, in the your babies are little and they're crying and they say, if you are getting overwhelmed or flooded, just put them in the cot and walk out. It's sort of like, and you get that, particularly when your children are young, you get that experience. And it's like, I suppose, an extreme version of that. I don't think she means to leave her children. She's just like, I'm out. I need to get out.
It's an overwhelm.
Yes.
I think many a mother has felt that.
Yeah.
And no matter how centered you are, how loving you are, how nurturing you are, it gets to a point where you've had a month of no sleep.
Yeah.
And you just lose the plot a bit.
Of course, everybody. You need a pause.
Yes,
Yes,
a
I love
real
that.
pause is a thing too.
It's great.
And it's interesting too when you're sort of saying,
Never
with
found
the
the pause
character
button.
Matilda
Don't come with them.
was also bulimic as well, you know, and so that's sort of, it's interesting with your
And working in a
term.
restaurant.
Yeah, lonely mouth. I mean, like going, wow.
Well,
it's sort of
it's funny that you use that word bulimic, because I funnily enough, I don't think Matilda doesn't think of herself that way. I think there's a bit in the end of the novel where someone says that word to her and she's like, she doesn't self-identify as a bulimic. And I didn't really set out to write a bulimic character.
No.
I just wanted to write. I was interested in this idea of hunger and wanting things and not knowing what you're wanting, and the idea that women, I think, repress a lot of their hungers or a lot of the things that they want, or we're given very, very mixed messages about how we should treat the things that we most want, both in terms of the food that we want to eat and more broadly just what our desires, right?
And love and relationships and and all that. It's no, I get what you're sort of saying there too. I guess when I sort of would read it and from my point of view too, and should have this food from the restaurant and beautiful food there, and then from whatever's going on in her life there, then when she would just sort of like bring that up, purge, yes,
There's a lot
it's
in
a
that,
bit there
isn't
going
it?
wow, and then the lonely mouth,
Yes,
it's
it's
sort of
pretty
like
incredible.
It was kind of I think Matilda's sort of at the really base of her personality, because of the background that she's had. She doesn't have a sense of entitlement. So, I think this is something that a lot of women can relate to. They don't necessarily feel entitled to have that piece of cake.
Yes.
When women
or the
say,
joy
"Oh,
they
it's so
experience.
naughty of me, I'm going to have this." It's like, really, why is that like illicit?
I don't do that now.
No, but you hear it a lot, and I've never heard a man say that.
A scoop of ice cream.
Yes,
and
I get that.
a sense of entitlement, I suppose, to reaching out and taking the thing that they want in life, and that was I was interested in contrasting that between the two sisters as well, because Matilda lacks that sense of entitlement. Lara, the younger sister, largely because she's been protected and loved and cosseted by her older sister Matilda, she does have that sense of entitlement. She's like, I can walk through the world and reach out and grasp the things that I want, which is kind of how we all want to bring up our children, I think.
Yeah.
But with that comes maybe an insouciance and a carelessness about other people's feelings and experience.
It's so clever,
Fascinating.
isn't it? So clever how you've done this book,
I
because
love
there's just
how-
so many different areas you can sort of
And
talk
I think
about.
also you keep referring, which is classic, and you keep bringing up with reference to the lonely mouth.
Yes, yeah.
Because she was hungry for love and identity.
Yeah.
Like
Lonely
that
Mouth-
was woven
True, and words too.
So-
Lonely mouth that she couldn't always
that's a
express
great
it
one.
as
That's a great
well.
one too,
Yeah.
And ask for what she wants. We
Yes.
always sort of know,
Yeah.
as we sort of say it a lot as women and older women sort of now of being, brought up as people pleasers and doing that. It's taken us a longer time to get there.
Yeah.
And you sort of see someone, the character like Lara, who was sort of like a bit more, she was sort of born and could do
Yes.
that
Yeah.
and had other gifts. So
Hella, she's beautiful and a model. And
yes.
Like,
Yeah,
and there's
maybe
the other
we'll
sister,
revisit her in
bless her.
30 years and we'll make, horrible things befall her. No kidding.
I love it. It's too good. But look, I think at the end of the day, what really got me in the book was, yes, she's carrying Matilda, the protagonist, she's carrying all this trauma, and I call it like the backpack of trauma.
Yeah.
And yet the irony in the book to me was when the father returns back into her life, and I think one of the reviewers described it as a psychic landslide for Matilda, and which is beyond dramatic. And yet I can't help but think, like all of us, when the worst thing possible that happens to us, when you crash and burn, you think, oh, that's it, I can't deal with it. Well, actually, it's giving you A, the greatest gift, and B, therein lies that little window of hope of transformation. And so it was beautiful to see that turn around with her. Tell us about that.
Well, it's interesting you use the word transformation, because I think that transformation, change in literature, and in narrative fiction happens only when you put a lot of pressure on, and when you there's a lot of conflict basically, and the character really isn't getting what they want. They're the sort of very basic rules of writing fiction. You can never give the character what they want. You can, you've got to pile sort of calamity and drama and misfortune on their shoulders. And otherwise we don't want to read it. Otherwise it's not interesting to us, which I think is fascinating. And it's the same in life, I'd say, that you only, growth and transformation, and ultimately, hopefully, the good stuff does come often through terrible things.
Have you experienced that yourself at any stage in your life?
Bad things happening.
As in rock bottom, oh God, where am I going from here? And yet this is my greatest transformation, my greatest change.
Yeah, definitely.
I have.
I think, we certainly have.
Yeah.
And it is during...
Well, you think there's no way out.
And I think at that stage you don't like going through it. No one really does.
No.
But the only real way of transformation, I think, is by going through it.
The only way out is through.
Yes, through it.
Spot
And
on.
you mightn't go through it the first time because you just mightn't have the courage to do it, mightn't be the timing to do it, you mightn't have the strength to do it. But ultimately it's like any fear, sort of facing it or going through it. But it is sometimes with hindsight then you go, wow, that was my greatest gift.
Yeah.
I've learnt resilience.
Yeah.
I've learned I can cope from this. And
it gives you a freedom, I think, because if you think, well, I did that, I can do that, I got through that. So really, what else? I can handle whatever else is thrown at me.
Yeah. Did you use any personal sort of experience in this book?
Like my first book was probably a little bit more autobiographical in that it was about a journalist who was a single mum, although that's where the similarities end. This one, gosh, how do you know? That's a really complex question, because in one sense everything that you put into the book and everything you put into your characters is you.
Yes.
And also you can sort of play around and make the different characters different parts of you, or give them different thoughts of yours or attitudes of yours or flaws of yours that you don't necessarily want to own up to, but you can just heap them all into one character. But yeah, I would definitely say that, one doesn't want to be too exposed, I suppose, but I would definitely
Come
say
on, you're on over the back fence.
I know this is
sitting on a branch.
I think, like most women, I've had difficulty with self-image and body image at certain points in my life, and I would say maybe even slightly disordered eating patterns. I've never been a bulimic, but I can relate to a lot of that, and I think it's very interesting, and I was sort of interested in writing about it because I think that it's such a monolithic thing that takes up the consciousness of so many women, particularly younger women, and it's not written about that. I hadn't seen it written about that much. Just the amount of space it takes up in women's head.
That because it's such a common thing.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
So many women I know listening.
Yes.
That I can relate.
So many people can relate to that.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yes,
thank you.
Truly.
Yeah.
Actually, I get emotional, don't I? I just felt emotion for that.
But that's also part of what books are.
No, I mean it.
It's true. And
I
Di
really mean
especially
that from my
wanted
heart.
this book on, and we can relate to, and especially, growing up, there's so many people who do experience that.
Oh, God,
and
yeah.
I think that's why it's so good to, we're saying have our podcast to just, talk about things, discuss things, whether it's done this way or through a book. But it's very helpful because you're not on your own, or there's ways of coming out of it. And then, whether there was shame when you were younger or all these different things here, that now, you're not alone. And there's growth.
And I think that even if you... it's not necessarily an eating disorder thing.
No.
I think that eating disorders share a lot in common with addictions, and there's a sort of subplot about addiction in the book as well.
Stepdad, I've got to say, is a character. I mean, he's such a naughty boy, but I've got to say, gosh, I can't.
I know,
he's so bad. I liked him though.
And it's funny. I'm always aware when people haven't read the book that they might be like, oh God, this sounds like such a drag. Like it's it's got all these heavy themes. But I really wanted to write a fun book and a funny book, and I think that. I hope anyway that the interactions, particularly between some of the characters, are quite absurd and funny. But I think that eating disorders share a lot in common with addictions in that when you're an addict or when you have a compulsive situation like that, you will protect it above all other things. That's pretty much the definition. Anyone who's ever known an addict, which is kind of probably most people, will know this, that they protect it above everything else. It's their pet. It's the most important thing in their life. And that leads to a lot of isolation and a lot of lying and cover up. So, and it's the same, I think, for people with eating disorders, because it's shameful, it's secret, it's something that you have to do, but you can't do it amongst other people. You can't do it in a community or a family. So you separate yourself, and that's where the lonely mouth comes in, because it's a very, very lonely thing having a compulsion of any kind. So. Yeah, I mean, that does sound kind of heavy.
But there are parts of it, I guess, are heavy in it, but it's I think it's so good too, because you've got to sort of deal with some real things, and also, and not everything has a happy ending, as we know, and this book certainly has some unhappy parts in it too, but I've got to say with the character as well, she ends up sort of like, without sort of giving too much away, because you've got to read it, but it's really lovely to find that sort of like empowerment. So I think for everyone who've gone through struggles, that that there is hope there, and sort of like, and through reading and then doing a course and also getting support. And I think no matter what, we always sort of say we're a big hands up if you need support in certain times of your life. You do. So really congratulations on this book. It's really good. So it's certainly we like it, like many ones.
Who was it that just said, one of the writers described your book as an ode to the love of literature and the power of books as a comfort and a balm for the soul.
Oh, that's such a nice thing.
That really got me. I went, whoa, that's out there.
And then what do you like to read yourself? What do you?
Gosh, I read so much.
Being a journo and an author and
non-fiction or fiction.
I'm pretty much a total fiction junkie.
Right.
So
we're opposite, really.
I know, and it is really interesting. I've always loved novels. I've always just wanted to read novels, and my sort of secret, which is not going to be that secret now, it's been on your podcast, is that I don't, because I work as a journalist and I write about politics. I do a podcast about politics. I should read a lot more non-fiction than I do. Like I should be reading non-fiction.
There's no shoulds
the whole time.
Get rid of the should.
And
do what you want.
That sort of new non-fiction book that everybody's reading, or the new biography that everybody's reading, I'm not really reading.
Well, because
I'm reading the latest.
So you just want to take your mind away.
It's my pleasure. It's my and every night I read. So in terms of what I've been reading lately, what have I read lately? I've actually read this crazy book of fiction called Rejection, which is it's short fiction and it's really demented and brilliant. It's actually about sort of millennials who are extremely online. I don't know how to explain it. It's by an author called Tony, and I'm going to butcher his surname because it's a Thai American surname. Yes. Anyway, I'm trying to think of things that your listeners might be interested in, because I read so widely. I read a lot of Elizabeth Strout. I've
just read one of hers.
I
looked at it yesterday. That's so weird.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
The name of it?
Tell Me Everything. There's a lot. I mean, she's just got one.
It was it was like in Maine, in America.
That's where her books are set. Yeah,
just blew my mind.
Yeah, she really messes around with kind of the conventions of fiction as well.
Look up Elizabeth Strout. She's brilliant. Great writer.
Yeah. What else? The thing that I read most recently, which I just completely loved, and people who've read it will know, and if you haven't read it, you have to read it. It's actually a series. It's like of books by Elizabeth Jane Howard, who is a author who was they're called the Cazalet Chronicles. So they're 5 books. So it's kind of a saga of a family. And Elizabeth Jane Howard was married to Kingsley Amis, who was, of course, a very famous larger than life British author who was a big drinker and a big womanizer and big personality, and she was married to him, and he was also the father of Martin Amis, and so she was Martin Amis's stepmother, and she actually got Martin Amis into writing because he was dissolute and she sent him off to Oxford. She was a writer herself, but no one really took any notice of her in her lifetime, or she was undervalued in her lifetime. But she's written this anyway. She wrote many things, but the Cazalet Chronicles are her most famous, and they're set over the two wars, a sort of upper middle class British family, and you will just get so immersed in these books. And she writes about the female experience like nobody was doing at the time. So she writes
what an insight into it.
Yeah. And she writes about. She writes about the wars and life and in wartime Britain, but also the sort of the breakdown of the aristocratic sort of social structure basically over the two world wars. Fascinating. I always recommend Elizabeth Jane Howard to everybody.
Do you read to you've got a
I've got a 10-year-old.
10-year-old.
Yeah.
I always think that was nice.
Little girl.
Yeah.
And does she love? But she'd have to.
She'd have to follow in Mum's footsteps.
Yeah, no, she's a big reader.
Observes you reading. It's like setting an example.
Yeah, I think it's really important for kids to see their parents reading actual books. Yeah, so no, she's a big reader, and I read to her a lot when she was younger. And in fact, children's books are very good to grasp like the basics of structure, like a narrative structure, and
love that.
Because in every book, past when you go maybe past the spot books, when no offense to the spot books.
I used to read them the spot book, but we're dog people though, Jacqui, so of course we had spot.
There's not a lot of drama or conflict in the spot.
I liked it. But watch this. See this phone. The other day with my grandchild, I went. No.
Oh, did you?
Because I got sick of him seeing me, because I was working on my phone. I know. I did that.
Yeah. And I'm sure kids do that to their parents as well, in reverse,
I could talk to you forever. I just want to quickly say, Nicola, go, where's she going now? But, just because how lonely mouth is this beautiful Japanese expression, I've got to say one of the other Japanese terms that I love, because he used to say Japanese things are a bit kooky, but they're bloody, you can land them, they're real, you can relate them to life. But this one is, which I love, and I can't say it either, but I think it's kintsugi, where it's about the art of repairing broken pottery.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, my God. Because I remember, what are they doing? But it's beautiful. We're all broken at some stage in our lives, like Matilda in the book. I mean, it's ideal for trauma recovery and resilience, whatever. But Kumi, for example, Kumi Taguchi, who we just interviewed from Inside.
We love her book too. The Good Daughter as well too.
Or the half, remember that?
So hafu, and then being half Japanese and half Australian too. And then she was on a train, and then an elderly Japanese sort of said to her, "We don't say hafu anymore. We say double."
Oh, isn't that nice?
And it's so beautiful.
Respectful.
So,
I thought of that when
I like that you brought that up, Di, because it sort of relates, say, to the book that you've written and to so many things in life, isn't it?
It is.
That we are. There's all broken pieces there.
We can still put ourselves together and be beautiful.
Yeah, and it's a feeling of abundance rather than lack. That we've had a multitude of experiences.
And I've got to say, now you wrote this book in the pandemic.
Sort of, was it?
You dedicated it to your mum, Judy, and I've got to say too, because you're saying with family is important. You lost your grandfather Barry, is that right?
And we actually lost my grandma just a few weeks ago. So we had her.
I'd be very proud of you, for doing this as well.
God.
And they were married for 70 years.
Wow.
And they passed away in about.
Did they argue a lot?
Well, Grandma used to.
Were they one of the happy ones, or were they stuck together?
No, they were like really in love. No, they.
That's beautiful.
Grandma used to get pretty feisty with him, but I never saw them argue.
Good on her. She ruled the roost, like that.
And my grandma told me. I remember going to we used to have lunch all the time, and when I was in my 20s, and she took me to Potts Point for a lunch, and she was like, "You should always have your own bank account." And
wise words.
She said, I've always had my money separately from Barry, and I don't care. I know our accountant thinks
she was ahead of her time.
That's actually remarkable.
She was a remarkable woman, and she was like, if I want to leave him for a night, she's like in her 70s.
Yes.
If I want to leave him for a night and check myself into a hotel, I'll need my own
What a
credit
smart,
card.
independent woman. She was a feminist really before her
Is that your
time.
grandma that when you're at uni?
Your mum's
Yeah.
Judy's
The one,
mum.
right.
No,
Is it
my
Dad's mum?
dad's parents. My dad's
Right.
parents.
What,
yeah.
what a great woman.
Incredible.
And I think
Yeah.
she was ahead of her time. And I think
Very
a lot
much
of women
so.
there were kind of trapped then. And we've actually now
We're
got
going to bring that up with Roger Montgomery.
We've got our podcast over the money fence
Oh,
too.
yeah, you must.
We
And,
talk
and,
about
and
that.
so
I know,
many
I think
people,
it's so important.
well, especially
Yeah.
from that generation,
Yeah.
you didn't even have the, like even the thoughts to do
No,
that.
'cause
But good
historic-
on her.
Yeah.
I know my mum used to sort of say, you need your little runaway money.
That's
this sort of
it.
stuff.
I think that's true. It's true.
And it's
Like,
that
I
just
love
sense
that
of
concept of,
independence.
I want to stay in the city in a hotel
and
tonight, I'm
freedom.
going to.
Yeah.
So
that.
yeah, I think that's for
Beautiful.
everybody, man or woman. That independence there is just a great thing. Well, look, congratulations.
Enough
on the book.
raving about the
We've
book. I want everyone go out and get it, and you've got to read. Honestly, Nicola and I both. We had
and it was a different style to me. It was good because I probably wouldn't have been to be honest, because I'm not into that style, and that's what I love. And that's why, especially there, I was going, well, I actually loved it more than what I thought I would.
Yeah.
you
And that's
know
what's
what
so
I
good.
love?
I'm so glad.
I love most is because I'm the eternal romanticist. I was waiting for, then she marries the chef and it's all going to be happy ever after. Well, it's beautiful that there isn't a bow tied around that, but she comes out a better person, so you feel so good at the end of the book.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Which is really
Loved
good.
it.
Well, you
Thank
make us
you.
feel good. We've got some of
Yeah,
our signature
we
questions.
do.
Did you want to shoot
the
down?
signature Here we go.
How would I remember those questions? Okay, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Well, as we were saying before, like good food and conversation, being with my best friend, talking, nattering for hours with her.
We love that.
Yeah.
That's why we love our podcast.
When you see your best friend or your best friends, and you haven't seen them for a long time, you're like, we actually need an agenda because we've got so many items to work through.
Oh, I love it. She's got filing system.
Exactly. Look at us. I know. Yeah. Our filing system's like this.
The legal studies.
But I also love, at the moment, particularly because it's winter and we've got this puppy, like going to bed with a cup of tea and a book and having my puppy there.
I think a lot of
makes
people
me very
relate
happy.
to that.
That's joyful.
yeah.
That's
Yes.
very, very nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know, going to my daughter's soccer game,
Yeah.
I love that.
No,
It makes
that's
me really
good.
happy.
She's got
And-
backup.
Oh, that's
Swimming,
some
yeah.
great things to make you
Yeah.
happy, that's for sure. Now, if you could share a back fence with anybody on planet Earth, who would it be, Jacqueline, and why?
My back fence neighbours are actually so great. Like I've got this Greek couple who live next door to me, and they are so funny and so hospitable and so friendly, and they're always pushing food on me, and they're always giving my
Fantastic
daughter
tomatoes, isn't it?
Yeah. They have the full kind of amazing fruit and veg garden. So I'm not sure I would trade Manny and Christina for anyone, but if I
love
had
that.
to,
So do I.
like I've really got
And be happy
yeah.
with. I don't think anyone's actually even said that.
No,
too.
it's a
That's
real neighbour. They always
wonderful.
bring someone into the back.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's
Di
extra
Westaway
special.
actually had said, it was like her 92-year-old neighbour.
very rare,
was
though.
one, but very rare.
And
yeah.
Manny
Fine.
has every single tool that you will ever need. You know those people who just do
She's a handyman
everything,
too.
Everything. Like he
I
does his own
love that.
tiling, he does his
I
own
love
roofing.
men with tools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I really mean that.
Yeah.
Like I
can't
go,
do
this is
anything.
broken, and they
Yes,
can
yes,
hammer it and put it on. We go, oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, because
love it.
I don't have any practical skills, so I just
Me
literally
either.
just have to kind of call over the back fence and say, Manny, do you have this? Like Jasmine the dog got out a while ago, which was a terrifying experience.
It would be. It would
And
be.
literally,
yes,
I was
yes.
at the hairdresser, got a call. Anyway, got home and Manny had already plugged up the hole in the fence
No.
with some plywood
wow.
and like a
Just don't give your
Well,
address out
that's
because they're
what,
going to move you
it's
on,
a
and they all want to
But you
move
know
in
what?
with
That's
them.
sort of kind of a bit what we're about too, is starting off talking to your neighbour, talking to the person, and it doesn't always work that way because we sort of know that not always all neighbours are friends, but that's just so wonderful.
It's
Yeah,
very,
it's the
very
best.
true.
That. So,
I agree.
thank you
I
so much
agree.
for coming on. It's just been a real joy. It's been, a real spur of listening to more books, and I'll say I listen to more books, to reading more books as well. And and also now you can see us. We are on YouTube, so please subscribe. We really want to get those numbers up there as well too. We're on
The
all
only thing
different
with YouTube
platforms.
is visual, which means
Yeah,
which
a bit like
I
that.
should have put some
I
makeup
came
on
on a potty
today.
because I went, oh great, rock up in a trackie and some ugga-duggers. Oh no.
I know, this
Hey,
is why
come
I'm
on,
a
Di likes
print
putting
journalist.
lips. She's the lip stick queen.
Just a little
But
bit
we
of
do
lipping.
like rating and review, and Di likes to give her own reviews here and
Look,
ratings.
I
What
think
about
you're a really
Jacqueline?
beautiful human. I think I'll give you
Thank
5 out of 5.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you really
You're
are.
gorgeous.
I know.
You really are.
Yeah.
Adore
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
on. We'll be back in your ears
She's
next
gonna
week
get a
too.
Nicker and
Ciao,
Jai
ciao.
hug.